I think also like something that scares the shit out of me that I don't see talked about that often is anytime I see like a far right group doing something that is beneficial to the community. Like
Oh yeah,
if they do like a food serve, if a far right
yeah,
group does that, that to
Yeah.
me is like uh,
Chilling.
yeah,
Yeah.
it because
Generation
that
Identity giving free food to homeless people.
yeah
yeah. We were
Horrible.
we, we were
that
talking
shit
about this last time, right?
We
Yeah,
were,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
yeah that
yeah.
shit is like that's what leftists need to be doing. That's
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
there's
We
no
Yeah,
talked
that's
about
argument
this last
that's
time.
going
last
to
time on the
convince
show,
people that are
Luna.
yeah
Yeah, last time on the show, Luna, who obviously you hate because she's an evil tanky and you're
of course yeah
a rad
That's
lib
right.
anarchist.
Yeah,
yeah we're
Opposite
always
end of the
fighting she
spectrum.
and
I was
I
thank you for
Yeah,
mentioning that. I was so
I've
tense
seen
the whole time. Oh, thank God.
I've seen the nasty DMs you have with each other, and you're always sending your
Luna's
fans
my
to
best
harass
friend
her,
because I
and
am
she's
also now a
always
tanky, and we are
bullying
now best
you.
friends apparently.
Oh, that's true. You're best friends. Yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot
now
about
we're
that.
best
Anyway,
friends because we hate trans ones.
Luna was saying that, like, if you want to have a leftist movement that's going anywhere at all, people have to think of you first when they have a problem.
Yeah.
And that's it, right?
Yes.
Like, you
Yes.
literally just. I actually prepared a quote from Climate Leviathan, which I think is a really, really, really perfect response to the capitalist realism thing.
Mm.
So, Tim just reminded me by bringing up capitalist realism again. So to refresh, right? In capitalist realism, Mark Fisher highlighted this idea that people find it easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism, and loads of people, rather than being like, "Wow, that's a problem," and changing what they thought about the world, were just like, "Yup." And
yeah,
this is a really interesting thing, which has to do with climate science as it's going on. One more time, like this book is just so good about educating you about like the state of everything. But
yeah.
bunch of graphs and shit that they're talking through the figures. I won't go into any of that right now. Don't worry. Don't get scared. I know it looked like maths. It's not. Don't worry. The point that they're making is how capitalism has affected academia. In other words, the figure seems to tell us that a temperature increase would cause significant additional stresses on Earth systems and trigger a significant increase in extreme weather would nonetheless have only modest implications for global political economy. The implicit claim, somewhere between assumption and assertion, is that the prevailing liberal capitalist order is more robust than the global environment and will adapt to the coming threat better than the ecosystems upon which it depends. Right? Literally, they're thinking it's easier to, like, they are finding it easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism, to the point where they're modeling, right? Basically, again, I'm not going to break it down that much, but like basically the first bar here is just like past a certain point, that's the tipping point, and then the whole world will just be on fire, and then all of these other bars are like to do with the kind of economic effects, and they're just like, yeah, it'll worsen, and they don't tip over at the tipping point at all, because apparently, because that's the way that like capitalism has shaped our imaginative space.
Yeah.
And when you look at it just as a basic bold claim, like the idea that the world will just completely fall apart and just be fucking completely on fire and capitalism will be fine is laughable, right?
Yeah.
Like what? How would that happen? What? Only if Elon Musk takes his billion people to Mars. Like Matt Iglesias gets his billion Americans, and then Elon Musk puts them on a ship and takes them to Mars. Then you can have your capitalism, right? That's the only possible way. Like it's so completely ridiculous. And as soon as you realize that, you're realizing like actually we are dealing with a system that is going to fail and die. And the only question is about how well and how effectively people take care of each other during the collapse, right? Yeah. What systems people build to take care of one another, right? Fighting in some kind of glorious battle with bombs and bullets, like, is such a minor part of any of this shit. We have covered before, and literally we'll cover more next week with, hey, come and watch next week. We're going to be talking about riot and protest tactics. Like we've covered it before, and we'll cover again. Like self-defense is going to be really important when people are building up and trying to protect communities, because capitalism fucking hates that, and it sends its jackbooted thugs to try and kick the heads in of everyone who's trying to give like food to homeless people, unless those people are fascists. But the most of it, the biggest part of it is literally just like figuring out how to feed your neighbors if like big Tesco closes. like figuring out how to like keep the house warm if energy prices triple and like there's no formal government anymore. Shit like this, you know, like that's the work.
This reminds me of something that we talked about last time, and I actually have the link right here about in France, in Marseille, how the workers took over the McDonald's that was about to go out of business, and this is during, you know, the initial COVID kind of thing, and they turned it into a free food bank for the locals. I'm gonna paste the link in chat. It's very, very based. I don't know what the status of it is now, or like how it kind of went out, but it was basically just like the McDonald's was looking at shutting down because they weren't doing so well. You know, COVID happened, people were struggling, and so the guy who had been managing the restaurant for a long time was just like, fuck it, let's just, you know, like, let's just stay here, and it's, you know, like this kind of just, you know, take it over.
That's the dictatorship of the proletariat shit, right?
Yeah.
Sorry
and
to,
so they
pull it back to.
Well, that's it. I'm off this call. That's it.
Yeah. So they established a strong vanguard party, and they but literally, like, and these were just workers. I think the main dude, the manager, was the one that was occupying it consistently from the start to the end. And you know, he did this, like, he didn't see his family for like months, you know, because he was there with the workers, and they just basically just, you know, started making free food parcels. People from the community were coming through, and it was all people that had a history in the area, you know, running it. It's like, these are the people that live and work there, directly supporting their community, you know, and people were bringing in food from co-ops and everything like that. It was, fucking awesome. And a great thing, because, and this kind of ties into what we're doing, if you like read this article, read other stuff about them, all of the locals were saying, like, we thought, like, we were in a dire situation, and we thought that's just where we were, that's where we were stuck, that's, you know, how it could be. But doing this showed us that there is something better that is possible for us, which I think is, you know, like, this is the kind of antidote to the black pill or whatever, like, people just doing shit in the community and showing, like, yeah, we could just do this, like, you know, like, we could just, one day we could just decide that we're going to occupy the space, you know.
And, that's why I've been talking so much about, like, just learning about reality and getting involved with real stuff, because like I think that some people might have been coming along to the Red Planet anti-black pill episode and been like, they're going to tell us about cool stuff that's going on, that's going to be inspiring and uplifting. This is definitely a great example of literally that, but that hasn't been our tactic so far, because that's not actually what the Duma mindset is about. It's about a perception of reality. Like, people, it's like exactly what Mildred said before, like, people think that when they are depressed, they can assess reality more. Like, a lot of people have literally heard of depressive realism and hold it to be true when they feel shitty about stuff. And it's literally not true. And once you can see that, like, it's, I'm trying to say, it is just about seeing a different reality. It's not about feeling inspired or feeling better. We talk about hopium, we talk about being inspired, and we talk about hope, but it's literally not about your feelings. It's about facts. You literally just have to come to see that capitalism's dead, and it doesn't even realize it yet.
There's I think a real hesitancy on the left to ever present things as though they could get better, simply because the fear, I think, is that other people who are not yet on the left view us as having utopian ideals that sound good but won't work. So if we front load it with how shitty and miserable everything's going to be, then it will sound more realistic to them, and that's going to get them on board. Oh yeah, you're telling me I'm going to have to, like, work in a dirt field and trudge my whole life? Yes, sign me up. Sign me the fuck up.
Right.
Sounds great.
I think there's also like that becomes a cudgel within leftist spaces, and I've commented on this before, but like, it's really easy to be the smartest person in the room if you say things are shit, because everyone knows things are shit. And if you ever say things could be better, or even they are better, it's really easy to just be like, no, they're shit. And everyone's like, whoa, my God, a genius. Holy shit. How did this galaxy-brained individual become so swollen the mind?
Can I also mention that, like, there's something inherently like I think a patriarchal intersection with this doomerism. This whole like everything sucks, the world's gonna burn, bro. Like fucking fuck it all.
Yes.
Like
there's
having
there's like a
hope
Mad
is
Max
like
fantasy, right?
Like I think the idea of
absolutely.
I think the idea of having hope is kind of is coded effeminate, and like
That's
it's coded.
absolutely right.
It's like some sort of like it's on the same scale as like empathy and like apologies and like things like that. And it's considered some sort of a weakness. I don't know how we got to this point. I mean, I know, but like I don't know how we got to this point. This point is like ridiculous, but like it's not. You're not, fellas. Is it gay to have hope? I think it's okay to have hope.
Like,
and also it's okay to be gay. For the record,
that's
it's
a
the
good
same.
thing.
If you don't know,
Exactly.
any extremely not online people, it's very
the toughest pill
gay
for
is
them
good.
is absolutely like the bitterest pill for them is absolutely like the work to be done here is caring for other people and building systems where we like provide for one another and get each other food and housing and shelter and community, because they're all they're obsessed with this idea of like, I'll build my left that's built on strength and killing and blood sports and fighting and this shit, and it's like no, you fucking won't actually, because that's not the left.
I remember I got to back when I used Curious Cat, and this should date the story. When I thought it would be a good idea to just leave an open forum for anonymous people to message me, and I would read the messages. I had this guy who got really mad at me because he said you should get in shape and lose weight for the good of the left. And I said, like, fuck off with this shit. Like, that's such a fucked up attitude. Like, literally never say this shit again. Like, fuck you. And it kicked off this whole discourse about, like, you have to be ready to fight when the revolution comes. Suddenly I got all these people that are, like, telling me that it's my duty to be, like, physically strong to, like, I guess, punch away fascists in their imagined future revolution. And then when you ask them, what have you done? And they're like, oh, I have social anxiety, so I can't join the IWW. Like, like, are you fucking kidding me?
This is
what?
This
if
is
you sign up for Amazon Prime, you can join the IWW. That's the level of like social anxiety.
Let
me just finish this thought.
Please go ahead.
Like, your value to the left does not come from how physically powerful you are and your ability to physically overpower others, because that is the least amount of work that needs to be done.
It's the smallest possible part.
There will always be people willing to fight. We're gonna have a much harder time finding people who are willing to scrub toilets.
Absolutely.
Like when we see like like all these like actual like like revolutionaries, like fucking like when like people knew that fucking Fidel Castro was like was like fucking like a strong individual, a strong leader and stuff. Like when did anyone actually see Fidel knocking anyone out?
Right.
Like he was like walking around town without a bulletproof vest as like a flex on all the fucking assassins and shit like that. But he didn't actually have to physically exercise strength or anything like that.
That's a really good point, Tim, because I was going to talk about this. All this week on my stream, I've been watching information documentaries about Cuba. And one of the ones that I watched...
That's it, I'm out of here.
Yeah, like it's so weird, right? Like, a white guy in the imperial court looking at like, imperial periphery countries and getting inspiration from it. Weird. Anyway, so like one of the episodes we watched is about how Cuba has a really good contingent of some of the oldest people in the world. And one of the things that I like specifically remember, and this is why, chat, your politics has to be intersectional, because even in this socialist country, and there's a lot of great stuff about Cuba, but I won't go into straight away. One of the groups that old people can join is still mostly female, and because it's mostly female, and like women are mostly in there, some men don't want to join it. And this group is like, they do Tai Chi in the morning. Like they have social networks with each other. They look after each other. It's literally like a mutual aid network for, old people, right? Like it's that, and it's so good for their health. And all these people, every single time a person would show up, I would say to my chat, how old is this person? And everyone was saying like 80, 60, 70. And it turned out that they were like 106 in Cuba. It was crazy. But the average age in Cuba is being brought down by men who won't get involved in these groups because they're too fucking machismo. And the
Gay to
presenter,
stay alive?
the presenter
Yeah.
literally said, because of the infamous Cuban machismo, and it's like
Oh my
that is
God.
just so absurd. So yeah, you're
Man would
absolutely
rather
right.
die
Bunny.
young than go to therapy. In his
Yeah.
show.
This is it. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is it.
I have a pretty similar story to Mildred's one about an online interaction, which was that like when I finished reading Climate Leviathan, and I was literally like, okay, I've looked through the facts of it now. I understand the situation. Literally, capitalism is collapsing on itself right now. Like not Marx's prediction, this will happen soon. Just literally right now, it's fucked. It's done. Fucking donezo. It's gonna be different shit from now on. And I was like, and I realized this what we've been calling hope, but it isn't hope. It's just literally like a factual assessment. And I went onto Twitter, big mistake. And I was like, communism is coming. Communism is gonna win. Like, it's actually inevitable. And someone quote tweeted me instantly, as in within seconds, and
No,
said,
you're telling me they didn't think about it for a while and
said-
decide whether they agree? They just knee-jerk reaction like that on Twitter?
and they said,
Doesn't sound right. Seems like a lie.
they said, I remember when I was this naive.
Oh.
And I've seen that exact phrase like a bunch of times when I've talked about how literally, like, based on the facts, how I understand that this is the case. And I'm just like looking at these people who've been in leftist spaces for 2 weeks, and they're just like, yeah, I was a Nazi last week. I'm an anarcho-communist now. You should vote for Biden. That's what anarchism is. And I remember when I was naive enough to think that capitalism would. And it's like, no, you don't. When was that? Literally, when was that? You being a Nazi and you being a fucking self-proclaimed anarchist who's just like an anarcho-Bidenist, right?
Yeah,
when?
yeah.
Show me
I
the
remember
time.
that. It was earlier today. I'm just gonna jump up and
hours
check
of
on
my
the
life
cat again.
chasing that dream.
All right. So.
Oh god. Yeah, so I think this is just like is all part of this bigger point that I'm making, that I am trying to get across. Informing yourself on the facts is the thing that gives you hope. And I don't know if hope is actually even a good term for it. Like, you literally find out enough information about this stuff and you find out that that is the reality. It's not just about how you feel. I've felt like the worst I've felt in a while this last week for some shit that's going on that I'm not going to get into because this will be archived and I want to, forget about this shit. And I've never once dipped into feeling like capitalism's going to stick around. I've never, because it's not a feeling. It's not a feeling that capitalism's sticking around. Like, I didn't even process this stuff when I was first reading this and other books that helped me to figure this shit out. I didn't even process the absolute totality and inevitability of this truth. I was just reading this stuff and I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. This really challenges ideas and frameworks that I had before. And then I kind of slept on it and hung out for a while. And I had a big moment when I was literally just lying around and I was just like, oh, fuck. Oh, capitalism's going to end. Oh shit! I was just literally like, wait a fucking minute! Like, it just hit me. Like, all the synthesis of all the facts had been kind of on the back burner, and I was just like, oh fuck,
I don't say this to minimize it, but when you talk about the creeping authoritarianism that we're seeing all over, everywhere, all these states deciding to crack down on dissent, they're doing that because they're very scared. They see the writing on the wall. And they know that if they don't take a firm hand, then people are not going to take it anymore.
Yeah.
The fact that
absolutely.
we're in the middle of a situation right now where thousands of people en masse are just resigning from their jobs and saying, "Fuck this, I won't do it anymore."
Yes.
Like normies.
That is the idea that any socialist could look at that and say "Oh, the situation is hopeless." It's like, mother, you're just not paying attention. You're just not looking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
I
just
wanna-
too interested in being an edgy, correct boy who's a
Right.
doomer about everything.
And that's that sort of like instilled hierarchical nature of people, like you were saying. Like, I want
Yeah.
to be the smart person. Like, and I also wanted to like compound what Mildred was saying there, because as I said, I've covered the police crimes and sentencing bill on my stream for like quite a while. And one of the things that we've talked about and we've seen is that police are not cool with this. Even police are like, this is absurd. We can't just arrest people like this for stuff like this. It's gonna, because police. Here's the thing, right? Chat. Everybody knows ACAB, right? You know, we all know how fucked up police are.
All cops are bad for those who don't.
Yeah, police know
Bastards.
that the things that they do is sketchy as fuck.
Assigned
Like,
cop at birth.
they know that, like, they know that the things that they do are sketch. They know that the things that they do, like, if they push it too far, then there'll be like a scandal and riots and stuff like that, right? At this point where they are bringing in this bill to have coppers be like, yeah, don't know about this one, chief, that is a great sign. That is a fantastic sign, despite the horrific nature of these bills. The fact that cops know that they cannot enforce this absurd, dystopian fascist bill is great hopium. Like, we should be filled with hopium because of that.
I okay, two things. I want to back up exactly what you were saying. Like, specifically some of the cops I've seen saying we don't want this powers are in the London Metropolitan Police, literally the oldest modern police force in the world, and by many standards, one of the shittiest, most corrupt, most like bastardy ones.
Yeah.
And they're saying it. Second thing, this is part of like predicting like what's coming and what's going to happen. I've been saying for a while, the foot soldiers of capital, police, right, will themselves start fucking walking off the job when they encounter the inevitable contradiction that literally, like, they think they're there to protect the community and keep people safe and this shit, and increasingly the whole of their job is just to go and smash up like bottled water stands during a heat wave so homeless people can't have them for free. Literally, those cops will walk the fuck off the job. We should have a conversation, and again, next week, tune in, right, about the cops who replace those cops will be the people who want to do that shit and who are evil,
actually, like,
fascists.
Explicitly Nazis, like literal.
Right. Rather than like all cops are bad because of system, like
they're actually like bad people too.
All of the ones who have any kind of
like
conscience have quit
They
now,
have
and
they
like
have swastika tattoos.
purely just the guys who were already in a street militia, like that. Sure, we should have that conversation, but like, police will be quitting as well. Like, as well as this anti-work shit we're seeing, people refusing to go into work. Increasingly, people are going to be refusing to work as cops either.
Yeah, no one's going to want to do it.
Just in general, even if something is always bad, that doesn't make all instances of it equally bad.
True.
Right.
The things can always just because something can't help you doesn't mean it can't hurt you more.
Yeah, we've talked to this through with landlords, for example, a whole bunch of times. It's like there are certainly disabled people who own a property who get passive income from it, and that's, like, fine, fucking good for them. I would rather they live in a society where all their needs are met. And so aren't exploiting someone for that money.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be unreasonable to say, well, I think the ethical thing here for you to do is starve to death.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived on the dole. Like, I wouldn't want literally anyone to go through the absurd soul-crushing bureaucracy of like having to apply for that shit in a system that literally wants to keep as much of it away from people as possible. I just think, like, this is, I'm always trying to tie this back to long-term vision, right? And what we are gonna see more and more of, and what we've already been describing on the show, right? So we've already been talking about how we will see people putting up more extreme resistances. We will see people building dual power, and it's less about like this power comes up and the other, like, and you have to overthrow the other, and it's way more about like the state is crumbling. Like, we can all see there are these, like, the global supply chain is collapsing right now. So you need to be able to feed your neighbors. And if you call that some kind of communism or anarchism, or like, you can do that and you can organize along those lines. But the important thing is that you feed each other. But like this thing about the cops, I just wanted to say that like how that fits into this is people will be trying to feed and protect the like growing camps of homeless people as like masses of people are being evicted right now. And then the cops will find that more and more of just their entire job is to try and stop people protecting and feeding homeless people. And it's just like, you can't reconcile that with being a human being.
I want to quickly interject and say that if you want to learn more about ACAB, aka All Cops Are Bad, I saw a few of you with questions. This stream is not going to walk you through these ideas. This stream is a little bit more of like advanced kind of, we assume that you have certain building blocks in place and we go build upon those. But if you want to learn more, first of all of us are content creators, everyone on this panel. Some of us are streamers, some of us are like more YouTubers, some of us do like a smattering of both. Any of us can talk to you about this topic, but in my chat forever, if you do !ACAB, there's actually Thought Slime's video pops up because that's the go-to video I recommend to people. Yeah. It's the a lot of you have said that this is the thing that helped to like make it click for you. And so I was like, okay, yeah, we watched it on stream. It was great. It's very, it's extremely salient to, I would imagine people that are new to the idea. So !ACAB, it's always in my chat, even when I'm offline, it's always accessible to you. But you know what, just subscribe to Thought Time while you're at it. So you always have that handy. Doesn't hurt.
Just one small addendum on that video.
Okay.
There's one part of it that I think is if I were making it now, I would do differently, where I talk about what I view the alternatives to policing as. And I think that what I suggested was just kind of not necessarily wrong, but very vague and not really well thought out. I would say there are definitely people you can read that have more fleshed out views on that. The Abolition of Prison, Towards a World Without Police is a book you can read.
Cool. Yeah. It's always weird when you're a YouTuber. Like as a streamer, my stuff gets like, you know, it just kind of fizzles out and it's just, I'm always making new content every day. And it's a little bit easier to like evolve your views over time. But as a YouTuber, and I've noticed this once I've started a YouTube channel to try to like put my stream stuff on there and kind of edit it a bit. I'm noticing that like I've said some things and I'm like, should I like delete this video? Like it's not like super wrong, but it's not reflects my views. I think a lot of us are feeling that, and it's a lot. People in the chat have the luxury of like pretending they've never said these things or thought these things before, but like we are extraordinarily like aware of it, and it just I haven't figured this part out yet. I haven't figured it out.
Nicole,
one thing I have learned
to get better. No one's allowed to
yeah, that's true.
You know.
One strategy I've learned for this is, and in a way it is sort of a cowardly strategy, but to remind your audience that you don't necessarily know better than they do, and if something you're saying sounds like it triggers your bullshit alarm and you think like that doesn't sound right, follow that feeling. Look into, think that through, because what I don't want to do, and what to some degree is kind of inevitable about what I do, but what I really try and avoid is to enforce bad, wrong ideas. I've done many times in the past. I just said something off the cuff because I wasn't like educated enough about it, and now that's just how people think about it. And so you kind of have to continuously remind your audience, even though they know, everybody's smart enough to know you shouldn't just listen to some asshole on YouTube. They know it intellectually. But if you don't remind them, hey, like, just keep in mind, if that sounds wrong to you, investigate that, you know.
The kicker with that is that humility is so hard to find in a content creator that by being humble, you are now affording yourself more credibility. Like, oh, well, they're so humble. They're so self-aware. So you know you can trust them. At least that's the feeling that like I know some people have. I certainly have it. If I see you saying this, I'm like, well, I can trust Thought Slime then. I can definitely.
I hope at least you can trust that I believe what I say because I'm humble. But I hope that you don't trust. I hope that no one trusts me to be their like a better thinker or someone who's more capable of synthesizing the truth than them.
I will also say,
like anything, Oh, you
No,
go.
go ahead.
I was gonna say there's like an instinct amongst content creators, like streamers and YouTubers or whatever, to like when criticized, to like relitigate their position by say like, you know, like they'll be like, well, what I actually meant was this or that or blah 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 blah. And we saw this like, you know, with like when everyone wanted to have a statement about like land back and all that kind of shit, you know. It's like people would say one thing, they'd make a video, they'd make a statement or whatever like that. And then when people would call them out on it, they'd be like, oh yeah, well, you know, this is what I actually meant. It's just that you didn't understand it correctly or something like that, you know? And it's like this really frustrating thing where it's like, all it takes is just to say like, oh, hey, actually, maybe I didn't get it. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm better equipped now to talk about it. Or maybe there's these other people you should, you know, like
Yes, I'll go
other people
read
should check
Climate
out that are more
Leviathan.
equipped to talk about the subject or something like that, you know?
But
I'm
then you can't enforce the social hierarchy of you being better than everyone else.
Then you project weakness.
Yeah, that's
That's right,
undermining
which is-
your marketing strategy for some people.
Yeah.
That's
God
that's a
damn
whole nother topic, and we should. We
Yeah,
should
let's-
probably. Yeah. So, but wait, I want to thank. Now we have a pause because last time I never thanked anyone for any subs or anything the entire
Oh,
time.
right,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna.
You
You know what?
didn't.
Let's try it now. Let's see here. Where are we at? Let's see here. Tail 2 Rabbit. Thank you so much for the 200 bits. Crying for lobster exclusion. See, like that probably made sense at the time. That was 2 hours ago. I probably made perfect sense. And okay, so thank you for the 200 bits. And B-Rat, thanks for gifting a sub to Tail of 2 Rabbit. And to Red Orchid 99, thank you. 10 Dead Bunnies, thank you for the 5 months. Hi Chat, hi Bunny, hi Red Planet folks, hi. And Useless, thanks for the 400 bits. Nodders, I hate Nodders. There's certain emotes that make me like have to react. Nodders is one of them, and I'm trying my best to like. I'm wearing this, so I'm very professional today, but I'm trying not to do this. Whenever I see Nodders, it's so hard not to. Okay,
You did it anyway.
yeah, and Nimmy R Red Hell. Thank you for the $9.99. This is Guess I'll Go Read Climate Leviathan. Oh hell yeah, nice. And Finvar, thank you for the 5 subs.
Thank you all for this discourse, silly.
Why is my
Thank you.
I turned off my text. I turned off all my alerts, and it's still making noises. Very odd. Thank you, Finvar. Thank you so much for the 5 subs. And Kitty's playing. Thanks for the 200 bits. Thank you for all this discourse. I love you. It's the L word, y'all.
I can't believe it.
What do I say back? Do I say thank you? Or do I say it back?
I've got commitment
You just
issues,
say,
so I can't.
I know.
advise.
I know.
I
I know you
know.
love me.
Yeah.
I know. There. That was cool. That was cool of me. Thank you so much. And Highway, thank you for the 14 months. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I think we're back.
I put it in chat, but End of Policing by Alex Vital as well. Just an incredibly thorough book if you want to understand like everything fucked about the police. Just really, really good.
Oh, and the Tale of 2 Rabbit thing, by the way, about the lobsters not being represented, that was when we were talking about Nazi dolphins.
Oh, and we all know there
as
wouldn't be
opposed to
Nazi
Nazi
dolphins. That's why,
lobsters.
yeah,
Yeah,
there wouldn't be
that's
Nazi dolphins, and that's why Posadism is the correct perspective.
I wanted to say one more example. This isn't a book recommendation to do with the topic today. I actually haven't started the book even. I'm just trying to talk about an example of what I mean when I say that I deal with like fear of things by educating myself about the things. I found out there's an anarchist bookshop near me, and I went to it the other day, and I picked up this copy of Prison, a Survival Guide, because all those horrifying bills that we were talking about earlier, right? A huge focus of it is that like anyone who's trying to make the world a better place is going straight the fuck to jail in the UK. And that obviously as a trans woman terrifies the shit out of me. But Sarah Jane Baker, a very prolific and prominent trans activist who has been, are you wait, what's that?
You're good.
Okay.
It's fine. This is right
Cool.
because Mildred
Alright, good.
turned, yeah.
You're good.
Fantastic. There's like a whole section about being trans in prison in the book, as well as like the rest of the book just being about what the experience of modern prisons is actually like. And like, yeah, I got that. I haven't read it yet. Like I said, I'm not necessarily recommending the book because I haven't read it yet, but and it's not to do with today's topic either. It's just what I'm saying, that like when you're worried about shit, you know, if you want to like confront that fear, educate yourself on the thing you're afraid of. Don't just do nothing. Right. And certainly don't just like watch a bunch of people get like really mad at each other over hypotheticals online. Like that's definitely not the solution.
Mm-hmm. So maybe
Yeah,
we should
like-
turn to chat and let me say this really quick, and then DJ Meal, I want you to say your thing. But maybe we should turn to chat and see, since we have about less than an hour left in this stream, and we have to spend some time talking about homework and things like that. Chat, homework, the word that makes everyone just feel like waves of fear in them. At least I do. Maybe we should ask chat if chat has particular questions about the black pill, killing the black pill, because we've been talking about all sorts of things today. We've touched on a bunch of topics. It's hard to just straight up give you like a Jordan Peterson speech about like cleaning your room and this is how you get rid of it or something. So, but I think we've been touching on a lot of different things. And then, so let us know if you have questions. And if you don't have any questions, don't try to come up with one because you want attention. All right, don't pull a me. Don't do that. Anyways, go ahead, DJ Meal.
Yeah, I actually forgot what I was going to say.
Damn it.
Because I was wanting to. I love ADHD. I was wanting to talk. I was wanting to ask people because I thought we were going to do this. We were going to talk about examples of how we've undoom pilled ourselves.
Yeah.
Like you were talking, Sophie, about like how you were, learning about things that you're afraid of and stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds like a great way to tackle this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like. So there's a bunch of things that have undoom pilled me recently. One of them was like literally just speaking to Sophie. So that's a great start. You could go subscribe to Sophie from Mars on YouTube. I heard another way you could do it is you could go to Thought Slime's channel and there's like another there's like a link at the bottom. So basically, anyway, one of the ways, like I said, I was looking at Cuba this week, and Cuba has really, I actually said last week when Luna was here, because when you hear about socialism succeeding in other countries, that is actually so hopeful. Like it really does fill you with hope, because, and especially Cuba, there's a lot. If you want to talk about one country in the entire world that is fucking so equipped to beat the doom pill, it's Cuba. So I've been watching a series this week called The War on Cuba, and last week as well. The War on Cuba is great. It talks about everything about the embargo. It talks about everything about the ways in which Cuban people collectively look after each other and collectively like have so much more democracy than in any fucking country in the West. And it's absurd when you hear these arguments of like, oh, Cuba is a dictatorship. It's an authoritarian communist dictatorship. They have a Havana syndrome room where they put you in a room and then you have a brain disease. Like it's just absurd when you see things from like the Cuban perspective. One of the biggest arguments that you hear about from sort of libs and stuff like that is like, oh well, in a post-capitalism world, how do you incentivize people to do anything, right? Like what happens when you remove the profit incentive? And one of the most incredible, yes, it is the Oliver Stone one, Unelectable Airwaves. Danny Glover and Oliver Stone both worked on this documentary. One of the most beautiful moments I saw from this, it is on YouTube, yeah, it's on YouTube. One of the most beautiful moments I saw from this series was a doctor. And they were interviewing a doctor, the presenter, and she was saying, why are you a doctor? Like, what made you want to become a doctor for Cuba? You got to go on these brigades and go to like different countries and help out there where like they don't have socialized healthcare and stuff like that. Like, what made you want to do it? And the guy just said, I wanted to feel like I saved a life. Like nothing like I studied a doctor because I wanted to make a bunch of money. Nothing like I wanted, and so you might think like, oh. So people in the chat are probably thinking, yeah, well, he's just saying that because doctors say that, right?
But I mean the profit motive.
It's
but it must be
the profit motive, though. But the profit motive.
Oh, hang on. The life he saved, he owns them now, right? They're like a indentured.
Surprisingly not. And then later on, the even more base than that was they interviewed this guy's daughter. And the guy's daughter said, they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? She goes, I want to be a doctor like my dad. He inspires me because he's so selfless. Nothing about like, oh my God, like it's it's like, because the kids normally, when they say doctor, like they don't really have a reason. Do you know what I mean? They say like, oh, I want to be a policeman. I want to be a fireman. I want to be whatever. Like, I want to be like my dad because he's so selfless.
Now contrast that with the story that's been trending on Twitter, which is the girl, it's inspirational, the girl who already has multi-million dollars because she as a 10-year-old runs two businesses. Like that's our inspirational story. It's like you can be an exploiter, and from day one, and like it just takes a really good idea and like gusto, but also a small loan from your parents, and also a PR company that she runs, and blah blah blah. Like
and like her parents are scumbags as well. It's like her dad has been like jailed for fraud and all this other shit.
Yeah, that's our version of inspirational. Contrasting with what you said, DJ.
Tim,
Mule.
you just say her parents are scumbags as well as
yeah.
10-year-old?
I mean, it's like I didn't want to break out the skull calipers too soon, but
I love the idea. Though I love the idea of capitalist media publishing an article that's just like, "Hey, the people who we constantly valorize, a 10-year-old could do that job."
That is the flip side of things. There's always a flip side to any of these stories.
The whole system that we have here, where the people who are the best and succeed the most rise to the top, a 10-year-old could do that.
Well, that's
well, like for everyone in this room, you think about like the YouTube channels that are like young kids who open toys and play with them.
Oh yeah.
And just the thought, the like skin crawling horror of like taking the act of a child playing with a toy, and saying like we need to find a way to profit from this.
Right.
Is just like there's
the
something
joy
about
of
it
a
that is
child
just
is
like
now like a profit motive. Like
I'm doing like a Magic the Gathering thing this year. I've got a sponsorship from Wizards of the Coast. I'm gonna do this video where I'm like opening packets in like my boobiest outfit, and I know nothing about like Magic the Gathering at all, and I'm just gonna be like, oh my god, I love the art, and I already know it's gonna get more views than anything else on my channel has ever had.
Is this Slytherin? This is Slytherin, right?
Yeah.
That's yes, yeah.